Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of this podcast, Printing's Alive, where we talk about everything print anywhere, anytime. Today, another guest, special guest. You know me, all my guests are special. Today, we've got Al Kennickell from the Kennickell Group. And what makes Al so special is, I've known him a long time. He has got the most southern hospitality ever coming from Savannah, Georgia. And for a guy who's on, who's up there, I'll tell you that he's he's engaged with this AI like nobody other. Since we started talking about it about a year and a half ago or two almost when it came out, he's just been reading everything, collecting everything, and doing everything he can. In a conversation we had the other day, he even said to me, "Hey, are you stacking any of these AI apps?" And I kind of looked at him and I'm like, "Stacking? How come you know what that means?" Anyways, all that to say, we love Al. We love what he's doing. And here he is. Hey, Al, welcome to the show.
Hey, Warren, great to be here.
Pleasure, pleasure. So tell us a little bit about Kennickell Group, which I think is, 420 years old and multi-generational?
Like yeah, no, it's the company was founded in 1892 by my grandfather. My father and his twin brother took it over in 1932. I joined the company in 1977, and I bought everybody out in 1981. Over the years, I've had my wife work here, my sister. Then I have two kids in the business, and they're preparing to take over as the fourth generation owners.
Awesome. Awesome. And listen, I know Casey and I know Andrew, and I think they're doing an awesome job. And really, kudos for you for doing what you're doing and giving them the room to kind of make it their own, obviously with some guidance. I've been speaking with some people in this industry and owners, actually fathers and dads, if you're listening to me. If you're up there in age and you're still in the business, kudos to you, because you need to go somewhere every day to stay young, and maybe you don't want to be home with your partner. But that's another conversation. But you got to do me a favor. You got to give your kids, when they're 40 and 50, some room to move and to make some decisions. You're out of it. You don't know everything going on. So maybe call Al if you can't deal with it. He'll tell you how to deal with it. How's that, Al? You don't mind people call you?
Yeah, anytime. Any family business owner can call me anytime, because we have a certain bond that everybody that's been in a family business understands. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, you've got to be pretty strong. You got to be strong-willed, and you got to know how to leave your shit at the door when you go home at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about families. We're here to talk about AI. And I'll just say it, but AI is taken over. It's the latest technology. AI is kind of like when the computers came on board and the internet and everybody started going crazy. Well, as crazy as we were then and with everything we thought about it then, this is magnified by a million times. This is not stopping. This is not slowing down. If you don't know AI, you're going to get run over. If you know AI, if you embrace AI, if you like AI and you use it, then you'll be able to run with the mainstream, and because the mainstream will be all AI soon, right?
Yeah.
So let me just ask you, Al, what was your ha-ha-ho moment with AI?
My first experience with AI, I was in an IPN meeting, International Printers Network meeting in Singapore. And AI was very new to us. This was probably a couple of years ago. And we had a guy speak to us who was, I think, the head of marketing for HP worldwide. And he started talking about, how they were using AI, and they were able to have translations done by AI and not so many people. And one of his folks came to him and said, I'm concerned if I'm going to have a job in the future. And he said, well, I'm concerned if I'm going to have a job in the future, because AI can probably do everything I can do. So I got a dose of it there. And then I heard about the Imagine AI conference that was going to be several months ahead. I see it right there. And I challenged some of the guys that were in that meeting. I said, you know what, we're going to have to make sure we understand AI, we can use AI, and we're not going to be run over by people using AI when we're not. So I said, I challenged these guys to go to the conference, and I challenged them to see who would know the most and who would have the most experience using AI by the time we got there. And to be honest with you, the two guys I talked to, they didn't even go to the conference. So I don't know that they really embraced it. But
They're probably kicking themselves in the ass right now.
well, I honestly, the reason I am working so much with AI, and I try to make myself. I'll say this: my kids use AI maybe 40 times a day. My daughter, especially, has mastered using it for all sorts of things that makes her more productive. But for me, I think I looked at what it can do, and I think that I would be very concerned if, me being in the printing business, if I had competitors who were embracing AI and I wasn't, that would be a very scary place to be, because I do believe that if you're not using AI in your business on a regular basis, you're going to get run over. And I mean that not as somebody that's, trying to be say something provocative. I just see what it can do, and I'm learning more every single day. So there's a lot of ways you can. I tell you how I really got started after I went to the Singapore conference. I started going to YouTube, and I started looking up, watching videos on AI, and there's hundreds of them out there. And what I always did is I would look at videos that were less than 15 minutes long, because I didn't want to devote too much time to one speaker in case, I didn't like what they were talking about or wasn't interesting to me. But I really immersed myself there. Then I got the paid version of ChatGPT. I went to Imagine AI last year, and what a great conference that was. I mean, the fact it was so fast paced and they had so many different speakers, I was just enamored by it. And I've come back, and then we had another speaker at another IPN meeting, a guy named Sean Olds, and he founded Boodlebox. And Boodlebox is sort of a collection of AI apps that makes it very, very easy to use. So with Boodlebox, I think each user pays $20 a month, which is the same thing you would pay for the paid version of ChatGPT, but you also get the paid version of ChatGPT in the Boodlebox group. And I would tell anybody listening, go to boodlebox.ai, because it allows me to do some pretty cool things. Like when you mentioned bot stacking, what I have is I'll have what's called a bot garage. And in my bot garage, I have my 20 favorite AI bots. And if, let's say, I'm in a conversation with ChatGPT and we've gone back and forth for maybe 45 minutes, I simply click on the ChatGPT icon and up pops my bot garage. I then might click on Claude and I say, Claude, do you have anything to add to this conversation that maybe ChatGPT left out? And it jumps right into the conversation, and it will say, well, I agree with this, but you also might want to consider this. And, if I want to have something in the conversation that needs some web research, I simply click on the icon again and I put Perplexity in, and Perplexity searches the internet. And, so it's just a great tool. So that's my recommendation to anybody watching here. If you use boodlebox.ai, you're going to be very happy with that.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty incredible. So for anybody listening, when it comes to AI, I said it before, you're not going to be in trouble if you know AI, and you don't have to be an expert, but you have to be comfortable with it and good to use it for, start off for different things. If you don't use it, you're done. but I'm going to suggest to people, even use chat or whichever ones you want. Use it in your own life. Use it daily for yourself first before you worry about even the work and how you're going to use it or implement it and all that other, all the other that stuff. I'll give you a great example of using it. Well, actually, you know what? For me, AI has been a game changer and a life changer. I've said it before, whatever. I've got a little ADHD, I got a little dyslexia, I'm bouncing off the walls all the time. And then I'm a little nuts to add to that, to add to the mix. But I would sit down at times and have to start something, and I would sit and look at a screen, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would be stuck in my seat for sometimes hours. And I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating that is. And if you're out there and you know what I'm talking about, then you're relating to me. But all of a sudden, chat comes out, and then I'm sitting there and I'll just write down what I'm thinking, and I'll just prompt it, saying, this is what I'm thinking. I'd like to start doing something on my podcast in this area. And then it will throw out, a few ideas and get me going. And then after that, I'm off to the races. It's like the writer block thing, and you get right over it. The other thing is, on a personal note, use it for anything. Use it to ask any questions that you want. If you're looking for something, if you want to research something, if you want to go somewhere, you're thinking about going on a vacation, just pop it in. I was at a restaurant, actually, with Steve Metcalf. He's the founder of Imagine AI. And we're at a restaurant, and he is just AI nuts, like everything. And we're at the restaurant. He says, you know what? We're about 8 people. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to take a picture of the menu. I'm going to upload it to chat. I'm going to ask it to suggest us what to order because we want to eat family style at the table. Nice Italian restaurant. And wow, it recommended, after having pictures of the menu, what we should order. And that's what we ordered. And then he went and he did it for the wine list. And that was great. Ordered a great bottle of wine. The only little screw up over there was after it suggested it, he went and ordered it right away and forgot to check what the price of the wine was. So chat just cost him a few dollars, but I will tell you that it picked out a really fine wine, right? So it's really, use it on your own stuff. Use it for your personal stuff. If you like music, if you like sports, if you like fishing, it'll tell you all kinds of things. Even the graphic. Anyways, I'm gonna just stop. So Al, just tell us when you started using it, where, and what you saw happen.
Well, first of all, let me tell you where I think people should start. And because this is kind of how I really started my journey. I said to, I was using ChatGPT. Originally, that's all I used was ChatGPT. But I said to ChatGPT, tell me what you need to know about me and my business in order for you to help me grow my business. What do you need to know? And it gave me a very long list of questions. And I proceeded to type in, I probably typed for an hour and a half. And I told it everything, even the names of the kids in the business. And when I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT, I'll mention I want to try something, and it'll say, well, that's good, but I really think Casey and Andrew would really appreciate that. But here's what I would also say is this, because you need to train all the different bots you use to know about you. So I told ChatGPT everything, but then if I go to Claude doesn't know that. So what I suggest people do is when you ask the question of an AI bot, what do you need to know about me? Type all that information into a Word document. And then just keep adding to it, because you can drag and drop. I know that it works like this in Boodlebox. I can drag and drop anything into the bot, and it instantly knows everything. So I can download all my case studies. But if you do this, if you just type everything about your business in a Word document, you can always drag and drop it into any other bot, and that bot will instantly know everything about you, just like like the first one you did. But the one thing I've been trying to do really, really hard right now is I'm trying to use AI to help me in the sales and marketing world? How can I grow my business using these tools? And the one thing you need to always remember about AI, if somebody tells you, I tried it and it didn't work, if that was more than a week ago, it probably works now. I mean, I'll give you another great example. We have a guy that's in the IPN, a guy named Seth from Australia, brilliant guy, probably the smartest AI guy in all of Australia. And for a while, we were all told, don't put financial information into AI because it becomes everybody's property. Anybody in the world can see it.
If you pay for it though, I think that's different. You have your own closed garage.
I think you're right. What Boodlebox says is that all the apps they have is protected. Even somehow they got a safety there. But when I was talking, Seth was at our IPN meeting virtually, and I said to him, hey, my question I have right now is it safe to put financial information in there? He said, not only is it safe, you need to do it, because if you don't do it, then you're missing out on having AI help you analyze what's going on in your business. So he said, you forget that you can't put stuff in there anymore. You can. So now I'm loading my financials in every month, and you just have conversations. Like, with what people need to understand is this: you don't simply say, I have a question, AI, can you answer this? What you're doing is you just start a conversation. And I may have a conversation with AI where I start in one direction, and then it suggests something that has me go in a completely different direction. And we will go back and forth, and I'll say, but what about this? And they'll say, well, yes, this, and this. But then it will say to me, have you thought about this? So these conversations will go for maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then by that point, I'm a little bit fried, and I'm thinking, man, that was an intense conversation. And then I might take a break, but you go right back to the chat the next day, and you take off right where you left. I mean, you go right back to where you were and continue the conversation. But it's just a remarkable tool. I'll give you another funny example. So on my phone, I've got ChatGPT, the paid version, and I go to the I can talk to it. Just I hit a button and we have a conversation. And I said it was a female's voice. I said, what do I call you? And she said, well, just call me Al, as in AI. And I said, well, I can't do that because that's my name. And she says, well, isn't that a funny coincidence? I said, how about if I call you Alice? She said, well, Alice is fine. So now I'll be at the house and my wife will have a question about something. She'll say to me, hey, why don't you just ask your girlfriend? And I'll say, okay. And I pull the phone up and I'll ask Alice a question. And sometimes it could be about travel. It could, because my wife is not asking me about business questions. She's asking me about, we're going to Marrakesh and find out this, find out that. And you ask the question and the conversation just goes back and forth. And what's interesting, you can have a 20-minute conversation right there. And it's just like you're talking to a person who just happens to be the smartest person in the world.
It's Siri or Alexa on steroids.
Yeah,
right? Because
absolutely.
People do that. I don't think people realize it, but they were talking to their phones before chat came about. Right. But I think listen, if I think back to last year's conference on the first day, we had Andy Stack and Adam Brock talking, and they are partners. And one was tech guys, J. Crew, Starbucks, like just super duper duper. And they were up there talking, and they said, we're partners and we get along great, and we never even argue. But we will tell you, as partners, sometimes we come to a point where we can't agree on something, and we go to our third founder. And everyone's like, whoa. And they go, third founder? We go, yeah, we go to ChatGPT, and it helps us solve some of our issues and see things differently, and then we move on. And I'm thinking, back then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, right? It's kind of like Waze in the car. You're driving with someone, and you make a wrong turn, and they're like, well, you're going the wrong way. And you're like, no, I'm not, because Waze automatically corrects it and you're going the right way. So it's really, I'll tell you where I just used it recently. I got a contract from somebody, and I decided not to send it to the lawyer right away, and that I would take it and I upload it and I put it into chat and I prompt it to act as my legal advisor, and that this is the first draft we're looking at from whoever. And if you could please tell me the good, the bad, the ugly, what am I good on? What am I not protected on? What are some of the liabilities? And it came back with this list that I was looking at, and I'm going, oh my God. That's not to say you don't need to go to a lawyer. But what I did was I just saved $2,000 of the lawyer's first reading. And I didn't need the lawyer to tell me what he's going to tell me to go back to the other people. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And if the lawyers are listening, yeah, you know what? I know you're going to tell us why AI is no good for law. Same way the taxi industry told us that Uber is no good for them, and the same way the internet was going to kill printing, and it didn't. To the lawyers and all the other people, you just got to get used to it when technology hits your industry. We're not talking bad about you or anything. It's just your disruption is a benefit for others, and you've benefited from other people's disruptions, right?
Well, let me tell you a little funny story about that. So I was listening to another AI guru, and I try to listen to a lot of these guys, and this was a conversation. And he was talking about the ability to maybe have, one person can have 100 AI bots working for them simultaneously. And he said, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. And this guy had just sold a business for a tremendous amount of money. He's not a lawyer. He said, I'm starting a law firm. I mean, and he's figured out that using these AI bots, you probably will have one or two lawyers on staff who will use all these different bots to do a tremendous amount of work. So, I mean, you're right about that. In fact, I think young lawyers are probably going to have a difficult time getting hired into these firms where they do a lot of research because, now, I mean.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna just cut in there. And this is the other thing that is so important for everybody. You still need to check and double check. Remember, the good stuff that's put into AI is great, but there's a lot of bad stuff out there too that gets, sucked into the mix of it all. So
yeah, I mean, it was really bad for lawyers initially who put too much trust in it. But now what you can do when you're trying to get research on a case, you can ask Perplexity, which searches the internet, and then you can say, I need to tell me about any case that's close to this and give me a link to the article where you found this information,
right.
Which it couldn't do that a year ago.
Right. But the point is, folks, you can't trust it 100% with your life and think that it's going to take you where you need to go. I love Waze. Every now and again, Waze can take you to a dead end, right? So it's along the same ways. So how did you first? So now we know that you love AI, that you've thrown yourself into it. You're listening to podcasts in the car, and that you brought your girlfriend into the house to help you with your wife and her questions. What did you do with AI in the business? When did you bring it in, or how did you bring it in, and how did people react to it?
Well, what we're doing with AI in the business right now is mostly it's the younger folks that are in the company, which are my kids, and they've jumped in all the way. I mean, my daughter uses AI to manage emails. I mean, she's doing things that I've not thought of yet. But whenever I run across an interesting article or I discover something new, I bring it to everybody's attention. When I have a really interesting chat going on with the AI bot, what I can do in Boodlebox is I can just click on a little button in the upper right hand corner of the chat, and it copies a link to the chat. And then I just take that link and I email it to Andrew and Casey, and I say, you really need to look at this
Wow.
This is going to be eye-opening information for you. And so that's another great thing that Boodlebox does. But I tell you what my daughter did this past weekend that was pretty remarkable. She came in and had to brag about this, and I have to admit I was impressed. But when you're basically the biggest printing company in sort of a small town, we all get involved in nonprofits and things like that. And I was on a board, the United Community Foundation, where we manage lots of money and give money away to nonprofits. And then she came into the board when I retired from the board. Well, they had a project where they had a lot of money to give away, and people had to write, had to do some grant writing. So they had 7 grants were written, and each one was in excess of 30 pages. So what my daughter did is she just took the document that said, here's the criteria that we're going to use to determine if somebody is eligible to get this money. So she put that into AI, and then she put in all 7 of the grants that were written, and she said to AI, I want you to rank these from most worthy to least worthy. I want you to tell me the ones that qualify and which ones you think qualify the most, and tell me why. And it did all of that in less than 5 minutes. She goes to the meeting with all these guys, and first of all, everybody complains that they couldn't believe they had to read 30 pages times 7, and what a pain in the neck it was, and how they struggled with it.
That's when you find out that people can't really read.
Yeah. And then, then she said, well, let me tell you what I think about these. And she presented what she got from AI on all of these, and her information was concise, and it was better than what anybody else had to offer. And everybody else did it the old-fashioned way, but not one of them, and these are all successful business people, not one of them thought to use AI for this. And that just tells you that there's a lot of people out there that just don't get it. They think maybe AI is a fad and it's going to, go away. They love it when someone says, I tried to use AI and it didn't work. And they go, yeah, see, it's not that good after all. They're all lying to themselves.
Yeah. I don't know if people think it's a fad. I remember back when email started, and at one point my father at the time said to me, he goes, hey, can you get me one of those email addresses that everybody's has and I'm being asked for one? I said, yeah, but you need a computer, right? If it's for me, take a message.
Yeah.
And he's like, I said, well, if you get an email address, you need a computer. He goes, oh, forget that. So
Yeah.
it's not that it's a fad. They just aren't doing it. They just need to. But for everybody out there, talk to your kids. This is the perfect opportunity to engage with them, to let them tell you, ask them to show you. I mean, I wasn't going to have a family moment on the podcast, but really, I want to hang out with my kids all the time. I want to hang out with their friends.
Hang on a second, Warren.
Must be important. If it's the president,
Hello?
take it.
Why don't you come in and say hello to Warren? But I'm not going to need your computer after all. All right, thanks. Bye. That's Andrew. He's going to pop his head in here and tell you hello, Warren.
All right, cool. But you know what I mean? It's a perfect opportunity for people that are up there in age versus the younger ones to engage with them, and they could teach you. So now like with what you just said, it just making me think about all the companies out there that have, older folks running them that might not know, and that's not a good thing. So if you're listening and you're older and you're a little confused, or you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know where to go, you can call me, or you can call Al, one of your peers. But more importantly, find a couple people in the company to engage with about it. Put them in charge. Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
What's up?
Not much. Welcome to Podcast on the Fly.
Nice.
We're talking all about AI here.
You've got the expert here. If anybody knows AI, it is Al.
And I'm
Well,
watching my questions. I don't want them to outshine me.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy. It was good to see you.
Cool.
right. Hey, Warren,
Yeah,
when you're talking about age, let me remind you again, I'm only 10 years old, but that's in dog years.
that's okay. I'm still immature and feel like I'm like 14, but it's all good. Listen, everything's about what's in your head, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I still stay out later than my kids at night when I go to a party or a club, but that's okay.
Let me just, I'm going to say something that I probably said 5 times already, but I'm going to say it again. If you don't immerse yourself, if you're still working for a living, all right, and you're still running a business, and you plan to be doing that for more than the next 6 weeks, if you're not diving in head first into AI, I just take it from me, you're going to get run over because it's remarkable. I'll tell you what we're doing. Here's something else that's pretty interesting. We're developing an engine for sales and using AI tools, and we're using AI, but we're also using LinkedIn Navigator. But there's a tool where I can pull up your profile, Warren. I can click on this tool I have, and it will instantly tell me everything about you, your personality. It tells me how I need to speak to you via emails. It tells me how I need to speak to you in person. And then what I do is if I have an email prepared to go to say, let's say somebody's in the marketing industry, I just take that personality profile, I drop it into Claude, one of my AI tools, and I say, Claude, I want you to rewrite the marketing email for Warren Werbitt, but look at his personality profile and write it to where it will resonate with him. And it instantly rewrites the email to where it now, when you get it, if it maybe you're a guy that wants something to be right to the point, very quick and to the point, but you could also be an emotional buyer where the email needs to be completely different. And the conversation we have with you on the phone, it will also tell me if there's 3 people I'm going to be meeting with, who is going to be the dominant person in that meeting and who should I be addressing most of the time
Wow.
and how to address them. All right. So I'm using that tool every day.
Listen, the more tools, listen, life is, first of all, I like that you called it a tool because I don't hear enough people referring to AI as tools because they're not the end all of end all, right? It is
Right.
a tool. And it's a great tool that could only get better for us if we need to use it. Now, the other thing I want to say about AI is if you are an expert in your field and then you use AI like to fix it up and to enhance it, uh, they'll be no better than you. It's an unbelievable tool for an expert to help them even express things and put it out there in a clear, concise way. If you're not an expert and you use AI, you need to read what you're doing. You need to learn what you're doing because you will sound like a moron and not an expert. And it's a fine line, right? But if you're good at something, wow, even writing. I mean, another great thing in email. Even I have to. I've said it before, but I had to write an email where I was emotional. Actually, I was bloody pissed off, angry, and I started hammering on the keyboard with every 4-letter word I could think of, and then I put it into chat, and I just said, "Hey, I need to send an email to get my point across, but I don't want to sound disrespectful or aggressive or anything like that." And I pushed the button, and the email that came back, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm a good writer. Like I'm going to give in and agree with myself on that one." And you know what? If it makes the person on the other end feel better, read it different, not let the hair on the back of their neck goes up, then it's a great tool for that, right? Because if you can avoid, life's confrontations that come up because of emotion and different things like that, then it's another advantage to it. It's really it's kind of like wow. But
Yeah.
everybody use it for your own stuff. So
One thing I did that was, I mean, I'm constantly impressed. I won't say surprised. I'm constantly impressed every time I'm using the AI. Let me tell you what I did one time it was I started doing this all the time after I did it once, but we did a project where we did in-store branding for 1,000 stores located throughout the U.S. Very complicated, wide format job with kitting and everything else. And what I did, I wanted a case study. So I simply just typed in no particular order, all the facts. Here's what we did. I didn't try to write anything fancy. It took me probably 4 minutes to type everything that we did in that project. Then I said, turn this into a case study. In 4 seconds, it gave me a case study when I looked at it. And then I shared this with the kids because once again, I want to make sure when I have an aha moment that everybody else gets the same aha moment. I said, look at this case study. I said, if I did this the old way, it would have probably taken me 4 hours to get it like
days,
this. And I would have only got it maybe 85% as good as this. And
not even.
not only was it written great, it had bullet points. It had certain things in bold. It was remarkable. So I said, well, case studies are great. Everybody likes reading case studies. So I sat down and banged out like 5 wonderful case studies of things we had done. I did it all in about 45 minutes. That would have been 2 or 3 weekends of work for me. And I still would not have gotten it as good as that.
No, it really is. It really is a game changer with everything. I just lost my thought there. Oh, so what I was going to say was, if you look at the shop, anybody listening, you have a print shop, you could, and you pay for chat, obviously. You put chat or open up a project at every different piece of equipment that you have, or at your presses or your folders or your cutters or whatever. And you could have the operators dictate in things that are happening as they happen. Could be the good stuff, could be quick make readies, reason why, could be sheets getting stuck, could be temperature. You put in your problems with the job and the docket number, what it is, because down the road, you're now building a whole file of instances that happen. And if something happens anywhere again, you can go back into chat and say, I'm having this problem. Can you search the files and tell me, have we had this problem before and what did we do? Right? Let's just take an offset press. How many times has something happened on a press where you could be hours looking for something minute, small, or just even stupid, like a sheet that could be bent or folded or a sensor or something,
Yeah.
but you might not even think of going back to check. So it's for a whole slew of positive
Yeah.
things.
You hear, like, one thing you'll hear is that, you can use AI for preventative maintenance, a maintenance schedule. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, so I've got, let's say, a KM1. How do I do that? Then I thought, wait a minute, Konica Minolta is the one that needs to be doing that. So, I'm sure that, whenever we have an issue, which is very rare, that gets fixed instantly. And I'm pretty sure that they've got AI heavily involved in behind the scenes on all this stuff. So your vendors it's out there, and people are using it, and you don't even know they're using it, but they are.
Listen, everybody's using it. I mean, there was one speaker last year at, I'm just scanning the page, so I'm sorry if I'm not looking at you, but Mark Heaps from Grok, and not Elon Musk's Grok, it's another Grok,
Yeah.
where he was talking about during COVID how they were working on some vaccines and did things in a day that would take weeks, right? So there's all different areas. In every area. It's a brain on steroids, and you're putting everything up. I took on chat. I took my the book I wrote and put it up. My website. I put all kinds of stuff on me up, And now it's kind of funny and it's pretty cool, but I'll put something in and I want to write something, and I'll prompt it. I'll say, hey, can you write it in my style? Because it
Yeah.
knows me now. So instead of saying dear Al, it says, hey Al,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't say dear. I don't sign off with love. It's cheers. But for every little thing is really amazing, right? Planning a trip, the work, even so purchasing, inventory, right? Everything goes right in there. Estimator sitting down to estimate, and he gets to go in and pull up inventory to see that he doesn't have to buy anything because he can use what he has, or he sees what's there and he could tell the salesperson, maybe we could substitute with the customer, speak with them. This is what it is, right? When you pull up past records, you know how long make readies took. If you want to quote a job again that you know was a little tough and you having AI and you're implementing or inputting all of your information, you never have to do a job again that you lost money on the first time.
Yeah. Hey, let me, looking at your shirt,
Yeah.
imagine AI. I want to. I'm very excited about a new use I'm going to have for AI at this Imagine conference. When I was there last year, I was writing notes as fast as I could possibly write notes. And probably I missed a few things because I was too busy trying to write down what I just heard.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going to be so different about this one is that there's going to be a transcript of every session. And it looks like I just froze up again.
Yeah.
But
Keep talking.
there's going to be hang on just a second. There'll be a transcript of every session. And so what I'm going to do is load that into AI. And I'm going to say to AI, give me a two-page summary of of this particular breakout session, and give me some action items, things that I should do, and I can do that even on the ones I don't attend. I'll still have that information. So it's going to be pretty remarkable.
Oh, it's actually, I have something in my hand that I'll just tell you guys, girls, people about. This is the Plaud, Plaud. At the conference, we have Dan Soroker from Limitless, which creates something similar to this, but I don't have his, so I wanted to plug him too because he's at the show. But basically, we just lost Al. So this is where he's going to come back in, I hope.
I'm back.
Okay, cool. I'm just hoping the recording. Are you recording on your end? Yep. Okay, so we'll take it and I'll just have to splice them together somehow. I hope, figure it out. So I'll start over. So at the show, we talk about, you talk about transcripts coming from the conference. So I have this device called the Plaud, Plaud, got it online. There's someone at the show, Dan Soroker from Limitless. So I want to plug him because he's at the show. And basically I bought this. Why? Because it records conversations. I stick it on the back of my phone. And when I'm on the phone, I hit the button and it's recording my whole call. So as I mentioned before, having a little ADHD does cause me lots of problems in terms of listening and taking notes because I cannot do both at the same time. It's just not feasibly possible and it's super frustrating. And then with this device or with Limitless's device, I could record and then have a transcript after of everything that was said. I could record my phone call and the other person, or I could sit there at a meeting and just turn it on and record the meeting and then get a transcript. And we had that before, little apps here and there, but not quite the same way. And so this is a game changer. When I think about, just even mental health, just from my own perspective, the angst that it takes off of me, and that all that thinking and stress you cause yourself when you're sitting there in a situation and you want to remember something later, but you can't do it all. AI just changed it up.
Well, let me tell you something. I mentioned Seth from Australia, who made a presentation. I think he's maybe the smartest AI guy I know. You know what he told us the number one use of AI is? You're not going to believe it, Warren. The number one use is therapy and companionship. Therapy and companionship. So, here we are using it for all these business reasons, but I've not used it for companionship or therapy, but a lot of people
Don't tell Terry. But so, we talk about uses and not work. So last year's conference, there was a lady by the name of Jess there who has a site called Familiarity.ai. And she was telling a story. And I've repeated this 100 times because this is amazing for the average person. She went shopping one day with her husband, and they get home and she says to her husband, honey, I want to make a list of everything in the pantry that we have. Of course, he's not too thrilled because he wants to go on the couch, but he's smart. He stays there and he helps her out. And they input the whole list of all their food in the pantry, when it's expiring, and whatever other information. And when it was done, she went to her chat and she prompted it to say, could you suggest 3 recipes that I could make tonight for dinner using up the ingredients or the items that are going to expire soon? She got 3 recipes with the ingredients needed, with the instructions, and she said, I will never waste food again in my house. I will never throw anything out. And for anybody at home listening, I mean, I don't know about you, but I got stuff to throw out all the time. I get, a lot of grilled vegetables, I guess, here. But you can use it. So think about anything. You have kids, think about the activities that you could do with them, right? Anyways, now we're going sideways, but like back to work. Do your salespeople embrace it?
Yes. Let me mention a couple things that should be pretty obvious to everybody. When I joined the company, I was the young guy in the company. And, I was out there and, everybody was older and the buyers were younger. And all of a sudden I was on fire. I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling the size of the business. Our sales team had gotten old. And then when I brought in Andrew and Casey, all of a sudden, everywhere they go, they're landing business.
It's happening again.
So really, I've got older sales folks that I would say have not really embraced it as much, but they've got a lot of steady accounts that continue bringing in business. But Casey and Andrew are all over it, and they are all over it because they're all trying to grow their business. In fact, they're both the number 1 and number 2 salespeople in the company already. But
who's 1 and who's 2? Let's get a little competition going here. You don't have to answer.
Andrew was selling a little bit longer than Casey. Casey actually ran our direct mail operation. Right. And then when she had her 2 twins, she didn't work for a few months, and then she came back and went into sales. And so her twins are 3 years old. She's been doing it 3 years. Andrew's been doing it longer. But she's landed some really big stuff. But they're the ones that are making it rain out there, and they're using AI all the time. So I think that some companies may have a hard time getting some of the older people to use it. Let me just be crystal clear why I'm so into.
You're the poster boy.
Yeah, here I am, an older dude, but I'm into AI because I'm a competitive guy, and I want my business to be successful. It didn't take me long to realize that if I'm not using AI and my competitors are, they're going to crush me. And I think one thing that I've always had that maybe kept me pretty aggressive is I always felt like the wolves were at the door, and I always had to be doing something to keep the wolves from coming in. And so I'm always trying to find the next best thing. But honestly, AI is so much bigger than anything I've ever run across in my life. And I just, once again, if you're watching this podcast and you haven't done AI yet, if you plan on being around and working, you need to do it. But even if you're retired, there's things you can use AI for every single day that, I mean, just remarkable. I'm Warren, I'm doing a direct mail campaign where we're using a lot of embellishments. Mm-hmm. So I went to DAL-E. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but that's the
Dally.
AI bot that creates images. I said, here's what I want to do. Here's the elements I want in here. Give me some examples. And boom, within images take longer than text. So it took it about, 10, 15 seconds, but then it starts showing me images. When we're doing, when we're going to be wrapping a van for a company, we'll put in the logo and put some of the information that needs to be on there. And we'll ask it to give us some ideas where to start on the graphic design. So boom, we got that. You don't have to start from scratch. I mean,
No, it's everybody's assistant today, and it doesn't matter what you do. You're working in accounting. It's your accounting assistant, and you don't even have to be in accounting.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in the process now of just setting up an account or a shop with Printful, and then with Shopify, and I'll announce to everybody what I'm doing with it after, because I think it's pretty cool. And I'm sitting there, and you watch all the advertising for these places to go set up a shop and how easy it is. Well, it ain't that easy. Okay, and I'm pretty in tune with doing things, and I'm not afraid of stuff, and it doesn't scare me, and it's still complicated. But while I'm setting it up, I got chat open on the side, and Shopify and the others have their own bot on there to talk to. So I'm using both of them to ask questions, and who's breaking it down so that I could understand it in the simplest form. Right? Because there's a lot of, I guess it's like a little MIS system. There's a lot of boxes and a lot of drop-down menus and a lot of different things. So it's not hard, but it is when it's all together. And it's especially hard if you've never done it before. Right?
Yeah.
So when I think about the office, if you're in sales, writing letters, writing emails, just a reminder to everybody, because it is that great. And once you do it, you're going to be amazed. Download chat on your phone. I love it on my phone.
Oh.
If you guys, girls, use Google's going to disappear. Google has Gemini worked in. Microsoft has Copilot. They're all good. Don't run from them. Use them.
Right.
Use them. And you know what? If it's worth it. I mean, I probably pay $20 a month for 5, 6, or 7 different things right now. And yeah, it adds up. So I just have 7 less drinks a month, because I'd rather take $20 and put it into AI than put it onto the drink.
Hey, let me tell you, if you got friends that are CPAs, all right, I'm going to do a little experiment, and I just haven't got around because I've been pretty busy. But I just had my taxes done. Had to pay Uncle Sam a little bit of money.
That's a good thing, by the way.
Yeah.
You're making money to pay money.
Yep. So what I'm going to do when I get a chance, and now that I know that it's safe to do this, I'm going to give AI the same information I gave my CPA, and I'm going to see what comes out of that. My prediction is that it's probably going to give me maybe even the exact same number, or maybe it'll be a little bit different. But people are saying CPAs that do taxes, they're not going to exist in a year or so. I mean, because
you know what? I'm gonna tell you why they're going to exist, and I'm going to use an example.
Exist, but as consultants, but not to do your taxes.
Well, different, right? So like when I wrote my book, and I'll just show everyone in case you didn't know about it, but you should know about it, and you should have bought it. But if you didn't, you can still get it on Amazon. But anyways, when I did the book, I'm talking with the person who helped me write it, because I can't read or write barely. And at one point I said to them, so like, are you worried about AI? And they were hesitant, and well, maybe, yeah, a little. And I said, don't worry. I said, your role will change slightly. I said, I might come to you with more of my own thoughts already, and maybe save the 18 weeks of an hour, 2 every week of talking to, for content. I might come with more thoughts, more ideas, and bundle it together. I said, but you still know how to write a book. And even though chat can write a book, I don't know enough about what a good book is or how to write it to even trust chat to spend money and put it out. So I still need the expert. And that goes back to me saying before about, if you're an expert using AI, how, it works for you. And if you're not an expert, what you have to do to make sure that it is right. And when I finished with the author writer, And he was like, whoa, I didn't think about it. I said, so you might do more proofreading on your time, but you're still charging. But I still don't know. And again, I don't trust chat enough to believe that it gave me the book in the perfect layout written all the right way.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't know. Right? When you know, it's easier to do your thing. So, like the lawyer, I didn't need him for the first round, but I'm going to need him if it gets a little more complicated.
Right.
Because even with your taxes, you have a question. They might not know the whole situation. They might not be putting two things together. And if you upload your taxes, just for me, take your social insurance number and name off, or give it another name and reference it something else.
Well, you know what might be, I think we're going to find, for instance, with my CPA, for instance, it's possible, I don't know this, it's possible that I gave him all my information and he put all that information into AI, and AI did my taxes and he didn't do anything. All right. That could have happened. I'll tell you this, if I'm a CPA firm, I'm going to figure out a way to use AI to be able to have one guy do the work of 10 guys. Because when you get into taxes, things like that, it's just a mathematical problem. And AI can eat that alive. So
right, but you still need to know the ins and outs if you're doing different things in different places.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree.
But that's at a higher level. I guess,
agree,
right?
but
Standard tax, I would agree with you.
He looks at it probably if I'm a CPA, I'm going to do the taxes, and then I'm going to have AI do the taxes and see if we were different. And if I do that 2 or 3 times, I realize, you know what, I can still bill this guy for 8 hours worth of work, but I did it. Now I'm doing them in 10 minutes.
I'm sitting here laughing because with the CPAs and the CAs here, whatever you want to call them, the taxes is kind of like they're not even responsible anyways for anything they do, because ever since the Enron days and all of that fiasco, when I do my taxes here, the accountant gives me a letter that I have to sign that I engaged him and that I supplied him with all of the information.
Right.
So in essence, they're basically, ridding themselves of any responsibility.
Yeah.
So maybe AI is better for that.
Once again, I'm just thinking that everybody in this day and time, you need to be thinking nothing is impossible. Don't put limits on what you think AI can do. Now, one thing that's getting ready to happen, and I think this was from if I'm not mistaken, Warren, do you remember when they were talking about quantum computing and AI? Was that from Imagine AI last year? All right, let me tell you what this person said. We had a guy that was speaking, and I've been to a number of different AI things, so I may have some mixed up. But quantum computing is the newest thing coming out, where instead of zeros and ones, I've tried to really understand it, and it's really hard for me to understand, but basically quantum computing, the way that works, it can do in 2 seconds what a normal computer on a very complicated problem might take 2 hours. And this guy said, he was from the defense industry. He said, everybody talks about, could AI somehow take over the world? Could it become dangerous? He said, I'm working right now on using AI with quantum computing. And he said, I don't think that this will make AI dangerous. I don't think. But what they're saying is that AI will soon be able to think faster than any human being could ever think. And when that happens, let's hope we've got some sort of checks and balances. But
I think it's already there.
Well,
because look how fast when you put something in, you get an answer. I can't answer you that fast.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you're not wrong. Listen, with everything great that happens in this world or any new technology, comes with it aggravation, misery, and grief and bad.
Yep.
Right? People just have to be smarter, more aware of what they're doing. It's just as everything evolves, the good, the bad, the ugly evolve too.
I talk about AI with my friends a good bit, to the point where they probably don't like hearing me talk about it. It's like, oh, here comes the AI guy. But I think that what I know, and let me do my little refresh here. All right, Warren, I'm back. So you have to do some cutting and pasting.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have someone do it. I can't do it.
Well,
But
AI will do it for you. No, but I think
absolutely.
this.
You know what?
I
Absolutely.
think that as much as I use AI all the time, and as much as I think I know about it, I can't imagine what I'll be doing with AI in 6 months. I mean, because what I'm doing with AI right now compared to 6 months ago, I'm doing things I never even thought to ask AI if it could do. And another thing that I would tell people to do, just get Chat GPT, even if it's the non-paid free version, and just start a conversation. Say, hey, I'm trying to do this, this, and this. You got any advice for me? And you'll be surprised. But I think the first question always has to be, like I said before, what do you need to know about me to be of more service to me? Because you've got to train your AI models to know you. One funny thing, when I was trying to tell AI about my business, I said, well, one thing I've got that's new, it's a KM1. Let me tell you what it does. And I started to type stuff about, high-speed inkjet. And then I stopped and I said, I'm an idiot. It knows everything. I don't have to tell it what a machine does. I can just say, here's the equipment I have. And it knows everything about that piece of equipment. You don't have to tell it anything.
No, and what you could do to make it even a little easier is you could go to KM's website and just take that page on the KM one and put it in there, and then just as a backup, it has direct access to everything as well.
Well,
right?
You know what, though? It's out there looking at information all the time. So what I did a little test. I said, tell me what you know about a KM1E. And it just basically told me everything. It knew everything. All right. So if something's been published, AI is, especially Perplexity is the one that searches the internet. But if something's published out there, pretty much everything that's been published has already been learned by AI. Warren, another good example here, speaking of your book, if I could say to AI right now, give me the highlights of what are some great takeaways from Warren's book that I need to make sure I understand. And it already has read your book, and it can tell me certain things that I might have overlooked. When you get a complicated something, like when I get some of these things from the print industry, when I get these daily emails and I see something that I'm not really sure about, I can just copy and paste that into AI and say, give me a summary.
Ask it to explain.
Or, for instance, I just got yesterday an email that was like 20 pages long, and it was a survey about how the print industry will be affected by tariffs. And I didn't read it yet because it was too long. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to copy and paste that in there and say, give me a 2-page summary of this. And boom, you got it.
By the way, shout out to Printing United. Hopefully you're a member. If you're not a member, you should join for the few dollars a year. It really gives you some insightful information.
And I will be at the show in Orlando. I've already got it on my calendar.
I've already registered yesterday. Oh, by the way, not only am I registered, I will be doing a keynote in the morning to promote print, and I'm going to encourage everyone to be there because I'm hoping to do something super special to get people jumping out of their seats. Because I am done with all the lazy, tired, boring, non-excited people in this industry. But that's another
Well,
conversation.
let's talk about our industry for a second.
Yeah.
Here's, and I'm assuming that the people that are watching this podcast are in our industry.
I know. I hope everybody's listening.
Yeah,
Just because it's me.
it's. I would say that, and you mentioned this earlier. Maybe it was offline. That we got a lot of people in our industry that are kind of lazy. And honestly, that's so true. I'll tell you how I when I got into this business, we were not a big company. We had lots of competitors, but what I did is I came to work every Saturday when there's nobody here, and this was before computers. Okay, this is a long time ago, but I'll tell you what I did is I put a blank 8.5 by 14 yellow pad in front of me. And I would sit down with no agenda other than I want to grow my business. And I would just sit there, and all of a sudden ideas would start flowing. And I started writing as fast as I could possibly write. And I might write on a given Saturday about 8 pages of stuff. And then I'd come back in the next day on Sunday for just an hour, and I would read what I wrote, and I would cross off the stuff that doesn't make sense, but I would take the stuff that's really good and rewrite it onto another pad. And then I had some action items to work from. What I knew is this, and I thought about this all the time. My competitors are not here doing this. They're thinking, hey, it's the weekend. I don't need to work. I shouldn't have to work. I don't want to work. And I was thinking, I'm coming after you, and I'm going to grow my business, and maybe at your expense. And I will tell you that what I'm doing right now is pretty much the same thing. But I'm not so much coming after anybody else. My goal is to set my kids up for phenomenal success. And I am totally driven to make that happen. And I know that the key is going to be for them to understand how to use this tool and for them to be better at it than the people they compete with.
Amen to that one.
Yeah.
Right. That is definitely the way to do it. Listen, if we, you say Saturday, Sunday, when I had my place, I was in every Saturday. I mean, unless I was fishing, because just to go in and clean my desk or to look when no one was there, to walk around, I'd walk around the plant, I'd look at things, I'd get different thoughts. I'd think about layout, I'd think about production. I'd be in my office, I would think about sales, I would think about a person, HR, something.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you're there every day, all day with everybody to actually have those moments to think, right? And I think I just had a conversation with someone the other day about someone saying to someone, I paid my dues. Meaning I used to work for someone and go in on a Saturday, pay my dues and not get paid. I don't think you have to look at it that way anymore. I think you have to just look at it as, you're going into work and everyone should be paid for the time they put in. But for anyone listening, you'll get out of it. You'll get out of anything you do the time that you put in.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be print, doesn't have to be medicine, law. You could be a construction worker, a plumber. It's just life lesson. You get out what you put in. Nothing in life is free.
I still come in every Saturday, and now my focus is usually on an AI project. And for me, what I told the kids is this. I said, I'm going to come up with a way to use AI in sales and prospecting, and it's going to be repeatable, and it's going to be a set of steps. And it's going to be, here's step number 1, here's step number 2, here's step number 3. And I worked on that for a long time. And I really have a pretty good model that we just rolled out last week, and we're testing it. And but we think it's going to be very, very successful. But, what I find is that you can do more thinking when you know you're not going to be interrupted, because there's nobody to come in and bug me, and I can kind of go into a sort of a beast mode of really thinking hard, and I do it. And let me say this too, I'm not all work and no play. Like my office is right across the street from the Savannah Golf Club, and I play golf with a group of guys that play every Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Right.
So I work every Saturday morning, and then I go across the street and I play golf with my buddies, and I have fun. But I will tell you, the days that I work on a Saturday, and I really accomplish something good, that makes my Saturday nights phenomenal. I love, if I'm out having a nice dinner with my wife, and I really stumbled onto something really brilliant that day, I'm almost euphoric, and I'm a wonderful guy to be around when when that happens.
I think we're all like that. I think men, when they're miserable, and everybody prefers us when we're in a good mood and happy.
Some people will say to me, if it's a friend of mine that's done well in business, whatever, they might say, you know what, I've been pretty lucky. And my comment to them is, you know what I found? The harder I work, the luckier I get. I think Will Rogers said that, and I want to quote him on that. But got to freeze up again.
All right, we're gonna come to an end, but we're gonna do this again, and next time we're gonna bring in Andrew and Casey.
Yeah.
So you could talk for a few minutes, and then we could hear from them how you're passing the torch to them and how they're embracing it. Because I'd like for the other people in the industry that are young or in family businesses to hear how it's done, because it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Any final comments before I cut this?
No, Warren, I'll say that I'm incredibly excited about Imagine AI. Once again, I spend a lot of time with AI and trying to make it pay off for us. But I know that I'll be with some of the smartest people in the world when it comes to AI, and I'll be with them for 3 days. And I can't imagine. I look forward to where I'm going to be at the end of that conference. I'm really excited about it. Plus, I'm going to be seeing Kenny Chesney on Friday night.
I was going to say at the end of the conference, you're going to be in the Sphere. But,
yeah, in the Sphere, seeing Kenny Chesney.
No, but that's cool. Cool. So first of all, just thank you always for coming on. I love the fact that you're so out there. I love that you're engaging, that you're trying, you're not sitting still. And the thing I really love the most is that you want to set your kids up for success. I think that's just unbelievably awesome. Which actually probably the coolest thing I'm walking away from this hour, because I didn't even hear about the AI. Passing things on to your kids, doing it right is so important. From where I sit, thanks, Al. Always great. Folks, this podcast will be out before Imagine AI. I'm going to get it out next week. If you're hearing it on the Tuesday, conference is the week later, you want to come. If anybody wants to converse with me, know anything, talk AI, talk print, talk life, reach out to me. If you want to be on the podcast because you got something important you think people need to hear, reach out to me again. Otherwise, to everybody, just go out, do something good, learn some AI, and stay healthy and be good. Warren Werbitt, Printing's Alive. Al, thanks again.
Thank you, Warren.